Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 221. I am Brendan. All right, UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Spivac. All right, Derrick Lewis taking on Serghei Spivac. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover Devin Clark, Woon, Jung, Marcin Tybura versus Blagoy Ivanov, Dooho, Choi, Kyle Nelson. We're going to cover the main card here. If you're looking for the prelims, it's going to be the next video. If you're looking for Bellator, that's in the last couple videos. So, real quick, before we get started, before we get breaking down the fights, subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of stuff so you know when the next video is coming out. I'd really appreciate it. Give it a like if you do end up liking this video. Let's get started. So, little light on stats on this one, guys. I don't got much for you. So, Derrick Lewis has lots of records. He's got the most knockouts, I think, in heavyweight history. I think he's got the I don't know. Most times that he said his balls was hot, I'm pretty sure he's the record holder for that too. Oh, oops, didn't have this on. Anyway, I just if you're looking for a specific fight breakdown, they're down in the bottom. Listen, I've been critical of Derrick Lewis in the past, and my criticism remains. I still think he has not fully applied himself. I still think he does give up when the going gets tough. Okay, he is not a through and through grit, down and dirty, gritty workhorse, right? He's just not that kind of guy. He wins because he's got big power. He does. He hits really hard. Now, he can do some explosive stuff, some things that you don't expect, like being able to lift his leg up as high as he can. That's not expected from a guy with his physique. You wouldn't expect that. But beating him doesn't give me the same, or doesn't give that fighter the same. I hate the word shine. It just doesn't describe it well enough. It doesn't give them the same. It doesn't mean as much on their record. Let's put it like that. To me, right? What it means is you were able to avoid his power and not do something stupid, like get in a 50-50 fight with him. Now, it's not that you can't win those. People have. Tai Tuivasa got won in that situation. People have won in the past, like Mark Hunt did that. People just wade into the fire and just let, push all in and the chips fall where they may. In this case, Spivac did not do that. Spivac with a huge hip toss to put Derrick on his ass immediately. And then Derrick Lewis did the usual Derrick Lewis thing, which is, jiu-jitsu is fake. Grappling is fake. He just stands up. Spivac ended up working to mount and taking the back after multiple takedowns, right? This guy, yes, you want to call him mat returns, you want to call whatever you want. I don't care. This 6 of 8 on his takedown attempts. Not a lot, like I said, not a lot of stats. Derrick Lewis did not land a single significant strike. I don't know if he landed a single strike, period. 0. 0 strikes landed. No strikes detected. So he did not land a single strike in this fight. Serghei Spivac moved in on him, took him down. Spivac kept taking Lewis down over and over, and he got him in an arm triangle. And Lewis did this thing where he barely tapped. Like he just went like this. And he waited. Now, Mark Goddard was the ref, and he didn't immediately stop it. Now, Derrick Lewis ends up tapping again, and Goddard does stop it. But I don't know if Derrick Lewis was trying to get away with one there. He was trying to do the Brazilian tap where, you barely do it, and then the guy relieves pressure so you can scoot out of it or whatever. I don't know if he was trying to get away with one there. I'm not going to accuse him of it. I don't care. It just looked fishy to me when I saw it live because he was like, because he wasn't passing out or anything. Maybe he was. I don't know. Just not a good look. That wasn't a good look. Anyway, what do you guys make of Derrick Lewis's career? All right, what do you guys think? For me, I don't think very highly. I just don't. Okay, I made this reference last night that you can succeed in the heavyweight division with mediocre skills at best in modern day MMA. Okay, you can't sit here and argue with me that MMA ability, MMA training, MMA skills, people in the MMA space haven't generally got better, regardless of weight class. Right? Generally, each division has gotten better. The whole MMA community has gotten better at the art. Okay? But heavyweight, for many reasons, I've broken it down before. Just to give you a couple of them. Not a large population going to be a natural heavyweight anyway. Just not. Not a lot of the amount of people who are over 6 foot tall in the world is less than like 15% or something like that. Guys who are naturally athletic and going to be like over 200 and something pounds, not a lot. And the chubby guys might not make it to this far. And if you have all those things, you're not going to necessarily go into MMA if you're athletic, because you're going to go into a sport where you're going to make some real money, i.e. Basketball, football, baseball, boxing. You'll go into another sport where the paychecks like have a much higher upside on them. With all that being said, I made this reference last night when I talked about Fedor's career, and somebody actually brought up a really good point today. They said Fedor is kind of like Babe Ruth, where back in the day, he was the best at doing his thing, but it's an era type of thing. And I love that reference, and I really do. And it's a great reference for most other weight classes. But here's the thing. We saw Fedor fighting in the modern era against relatively modern opponents, and he was still able to compete in the heavyweight division because he could still crack. Now, his chin's gone. His athleticism's gone. It's not quite what it used to be, but he can still crack. And he was knocking people out legit. Were they great wins? Maybe not. Whatever. You want to throw whatever shade you want on him in his later career, you're more than welcome. I don't think it's the shining achievement, the pinnacle, the end-all be-all of MMA, but it shows you that even in his diminished state, he's able to compete in modern mixed martial arts in the heavyweight division. Now, we all know, we all agree that he is a shell of himself. We can all agree on that, right? We can all agree that this modern Fedor is not the same guy from 2009 for many reasons, not the least of which is he's a human being with like bones and natural degeneration. Like it's just genetics. This is how the human body works, regardless of the mental things and anything else. Okay. So to put this in perspective, Derrick Lewis is a guy with mediocre skills at best, with insane power, who's able to not only succeed in the UFC, but be ranked in the top 10 of a division, getting multiple title shots. No, multiple title shots? I think one of them's from interim belt. Multiple title shots in the modern UFC in 2020, like 2018 and on, guys. And this guy, Derrick Lewis, if you were to transplant him back into Pride, back into old UFC, back into any other organ, like some of the other, like Strike Force or stuff like that, do you think he's outright going in there? He's going to smoke Daniel Cormier in Strike Force? No. Do you think he's going to beat Cain Velasquez? No. Do you think he's going to go back there and beat Shane Carwin from, I think he was in the WEC? No. You think he's going to go beat these guys in Pride, like Nogueira and all them back in their prime when they could take a huge punch? No. You think he's going to beat Fedor? No. But he's still succeeding in the heavyweight division. That's how freaking good Fedor is that he was able to avoid loss. And Derrick Lewis has a ton of losses. He has a ton of losses. He's lost, what, four of his last 5? Yeah. His only win is against Chris Daukaus, who is likely to get cut from the UFC. And yeah, he beat Curtis Blades. That's a really good win, and a win against Alexei Oleinik. That's fine. It's not the end all be all. I'm not gonna throw a party for him for beating a 50-year-old man. But you lose to him, and it is a draw, so you got to beat him, and he did what he had to do. The win against Ilir Latifi, not the best win. The win against Blagoy Ivanov, arguable as a split decision win. And even this guy is able to get wins against some like good competition, like Volkov, Francis Ngannou, horrible fight, Marcin Tybura, Travis Brown, all these modern fighters he's able to beat. But if you took him and put him in Pride, do you think he's consistently winning against a guy like Fedor? But no, Fedor was able to do this stuff without losing for 30 fights in a row, guys. 30 fights at heavyweight. That's insane. Insane. Now, back to this fight. Serghei Spivac. What can you say, guys? What can you say? His losses in the UFC are as follows. His UFC debut to Walt Harris. Walt Harris is he's an athletic, challenging heavyweight who can hit really hard. If you can weather the storm, though, which he didn't, he lost in 50 seconds. That's a problem. But if you can weather the storm, now you're looking at, now you're looking at an easier fight. So he loses to Walt Harris. It's not a bad loss to me. Beats Tai Tuivasa in 2019. In retrospect, that's a pretty good win, huh? Loses to Marcin Tybura, who just won last night as well. Not a bad loss given his track record and his level of competition. So, I thought Spivac was kind of at the same level as Marcin Tybura. Carlos Felipe, whatever. Jared Vandera, again, he's a guy who goes in there and he can be a tough competition. He's just a big, strong guy. Alexei Oleinik, beating him. Okay, that's fine. Losing to Tom Aspinall. So this is where you say, okay, guys, clearly we can see right here, this is his limit. He can beat the guys that he's kind of supposed to beat. He is like a Marcin Tybura level fighter. This is the kind of guy he's going to be beating. Then he beats Greg Hardy, which we're all grateful for, apparently. Beats Augusto Sakai, which, again, these are all whatever wins. Now he beats Derrick Lewis in convincing fashion, where he doesn't get touched, and he just ragdolls him and throws him around, which I don't think anybody's really done that to Lewis other than maybe Daniel Cormier, and it took him a little bit longer and more work than Spivac put in. Maybe it wasn't longer, but took a little bit more work than Spivac put in. I mean, that's legit, guys. He's legit. If you want to talk about how good Derrick Lewis is, you can't in the same breath also tell me that, Spivac isn't the real deal. So he is. What does this mean? Well, Derrick Lewis should be dropping down quite a bit. Spivac should jump up. I wouldn't be surprised if Derrick Lewis dropped outside the top 10. He's lost 4 of his last 5. I think his name recognition and all that stuff will still leave him around for crazy good fights. I think he can still win. I still think he can beat people in the top 10. Right? I think him versus Rosenstruck is a good fight. I don't know why that hasn't taken place yet. I really do. I think that's a great matchup. I don't know why Spivac is jumping the line and doing that, but whatever. Right? So for Spivac, on the other hand, he's calling for the winner of John Jones versus Cyril Gane. I don't think so, dude. I think Serghei Pavlovich has a little bit more. I mean, if you want to fight him or you want to go in here against Curtis Blades, that could be he's already fought Aspinall and Tai Tuivasa, so you probably don't want to burn that. Volkov's a good fight for him. You can see if he can handle a guy like Volkov. Rosenstruck might be good, but I wouldn't go that way. Anyway, great win for Spivac. Awesome fight. I'm happy for him. What does it mean for Derrick Lewis in his career? I have no idea. Right? I've said it for years now. I think he's not even an all-action fighter. He's a relatively boring fighter to watch for a majority of the time he's in there, and then he has exciting moments. Okay? He throws a big punch here or there, and then people remember that. That's what they remember, that big knockout, and that's what they want to cling to. You do you. If you're a huge fan of him, that's awesome. Good for you. You can enjoy whatever you would like. It's not my favorite thing to watch. Guys who don't take the sport seriously, guys who barely go in there and like do anything. Like that's not something I'm interested in watching or supporting. And the fact that he's been so highly ranked and been able to jump the line, in my opinion, after some less than stellar opponent choices. Like, and this sounds like I'm being a hater or whatever. You can accuse me of being whatever. I'm just trying to be a realist here, and I've been saying it for years. I don't think Derrick Lewis is cut out to be a champion. He's had plenty of opportunities. What was the story this time? Oh, man, Derrick Lewis is running. Derrick Lewis is in shape. Look at how much Derrick Lewis is doing. Look at him. He's taking it seriously finally. And what did we see? The exact same performance we've seen the last 12 fights. Okay? For better or for worse. So let's just be honest about what he is as a fighter. He's not going to take it serious. He's not really looking to become a champ. He's not willing to sacrifice much of his life in order to become a champion. He likes to live his life the way he is. And I've also said this before. He's like when there was those floods in Houston, he was taking his truck because he was lifted and he was getting people out of floods. He's a really funny guy on Instagram. He's a funny guy to interview. He's great on the mic. He seems like a genuinely nice individual who's fun to hang out with, lighthearted guy. I am not attacking him as a person. I don't know him as a person, obviously. But you look at somebody like that who has all of the genetic ability. If you can throw a kick like that, jump up and lift your fat ass, which he is. He's fat, guys. He's fat. Okay? I don't think we have to dance around this. I don't think he knows he's fat. If you could lift your fat ass off the ground to throw a flying knee like that, with that kind of athleticism, being able to lift your leg up, imagine if he had just a little bit of cardio and a little bit of wherewithal to know what he's doing in there against some higher skilled opponents. We're talking about a guy who doesn't lose to the likes of Tai Tuivasa, right? Who really was, who could have challenged Francis Ngannou for the title. Maybe would have been a stronger contender against Daniel Cormier. Hell, we probably would have seen him against Stipe Miocic. And that's the thing is, I think he could beat Stipe. He beat Curtis Blades. I think he could beat Stipe. Stipe doesn't have the best chin anymore. Stipe really has to mind his P's and Q's when he's in there. And, being in there for 15 or 25 minutes with Derrick Lewis, that's a long time to not get hit. So, do I think Derrick Lewis today could be champion? Sure. Absolutely, I think he could. Do I think he will? No. I just don't. Based off of what I've seen, we have enough body of work now, guys. He's been fighting in the UFC since 2014. Okay, he's been fighting since 2014. He's been in the UFC for a long time. Longer than you think, even 9 years now. And he rattled off a bunch of crazy knockouts, and he was like all high energy and that stuff. Then he loses to Mark Hunt. But people forget about that, and they just remember, like, oh, yeah, but then he knocked out Tybura. And remember, he had that. Well, then he had that crap fight about Ngannou. We don't talk about that one. And then remember, he knocked out Volkov in the last 10 seconds. That was crazy. And a fight that he was losing. Oh, but then he went up and fought against Daniel Cormier. But that was, we don't talk about that one because that's Daniel Cormier. He's one of the greatest. Then he fights Junior Dos Santos. Oh, we don't need to talk about that one. That was just weird. Junior Dos Santos isn't in the UFC anymore. Oh, a split decision win. We don't need to talk about that. Oh, the less than impressive win over Ilir Latifi. We don't need to talk about that one. And then he knocks out Ilir Latifi. And remember, he knocked out Curtis Blades? Then he loses Cyril Gane for the title. But, he was having a bad night or whatever it might be. Dude, all of his... he hasn't had a decision, win or loss, since 2020. So, yeah, 2020. In 2019, he had 2 decision wins. So most of his stuff is either losing by knockout or winning by knockout. It's not a guy who's going to go in there. And remember when he got knocked out from that heel kick from Sean Jordan forever ago? That's when I knew that he had weaknesses in his game, was that knockout. Remember when he got knocked out by Matt Mitrione from the forearm? Like, that was the very beginning of his UFC career. And, then he went on to beat the likes of Victor Pesta, Damian Grabowski, Gabriel Gonzaga, a 1,000-year-old Gabriel Gonzaga, Roy Nelson, but again, that was a split decision. Shamil Abdurakhimov, that's a good win. And then Travis Brown at the end of his career, which he didn't give a shit anymore, and he was in a bad camp for him. But yeah, and then he loses to Mark Hunt, a well past his prime Mark Hunt, but, he loses to him. And he quits. He quit in that fight. It's just... He gets all these wins, and it should be impressive. But his body of work just doesn't show it, okay? Because you look at somebody like Stipe, who's fighting the creme de la creme. He's fighting the hardest guys in the division constantly. And, that means more than knocking out cans. And they're not cans. It's the UFC. So, all right, let's move on here. Let us move on. Oh, son of a monkey. All right, Dawoon Jung versus Devin Clark. Good fight for Devin Clark. All right, so in this first round, this might go a little bit faster. Okay, so Clark uses the right hand to enter really early. He got the clinch against the cage. Jung reversed it and got the momentary takedown, but Clark got right back up, and then he was in control against the cage. So this was a lot of grappling heavy stuff. There wasn't a ton of strikes being thrown around here. You can see here Clark actually won the striking numbers. He had the advantage 10-5 in that first round. And then here in the second round, I gave him that first round 10-9. In the second round here, Clark in on a double, got the lift, Jung right back up, and he ended up reversing. The grappling was back and forth, but when they separate, Clark was the one landing the heavier shot. So I had him up 20-18. You look here, second round, 10-6, very similar to the first. Then here in the third round, Jung ended up getting a trip out in the open and finally on top. But Clark got up and continuously pressure. I think it should have been a 30-27 is the correct call. Devin Clark getting the win here. Last round was probably one of his best rounds, highest output for sure, and highest land. 19-7 as far as significant strikes there. Good win for Devin Clark. That was it's good to see him get that win there. Okay, Marcin Tybura taking on Blagoy Ivanov. This fight, it was one of those striking battles where this is one of those times where you can look at a striking battle and be like, oh, well, maybe grappling isn't that bad. They separate, and then they enter. They throw 2 or 3 shots, then rinse and repeat. Ivanov was taking the center of the cage, but Tybura just seemed to get the better of it. It was really weird. I don't have damage way out in front either way, but I think Tybura landed more. They seem to be softer kicks. He did land more, 22-12 in favor of Tybura. So I did give him that round, but it was pretty close. Just because even though he was up by 10 strikes, it felt like all of Ivanov's fights are like this. They're all this way. Anyway, second round, Tybura landed a really great left hand, then another. Ivanov was standing his ground and throws some hooks. Tybura had the most impact on his stuff in the second round, so I lean towards him again. So I again, if you gave that first round to Ivanov, I don't know how. If you gave this one to Ivanov, the thing is, it felt so close that it could be 20-18 either way, right? If you had it 19-19, I understand. If you had 20-18, I understand. But I had it for Tybura, and then Tybura got the takedown, holding him against the fence, and that was pretty much the whole last round. You can see there are no strikes in this last round. Oh, one strike in this last round. So you had 30-27, 29-28, and 29-28. So pretty much going that way. Like they could have given that second round to Ivanov. Like I said, you can do that. It just didn't feel like there was a whole bunch going on. All right, Dooho Choi taking on Kyle Nelson. This fight was good. Very good. I do recommend it. If you didn't watch this one, I do recommend to go see this. Choi landed some heavy low kicks. Choi slipped down a kick and ended up getting taken down. Choi squeezed out of that position, and he ended up getting into the mounted crucifix for a moment. It didn't really hold. It didn't take. Both guys had similar control time, in my opinion. I thought they had right? Yeah. 224-156 in favor of Choi for control time. I just felt like Choi did more damage, so I gave him that first round 10-9. As far as significant strikes go, it's only 3-1 here. I thought he landed more than that. Total strikes 15, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just way off with my I thought he landed more. He landed total strikes. It was more. There was a right hand from Kyle that staggered Choi backwards here in the second round, and he started landing this short right elbow in tight. The low kick to the lead leg of Nelson was starting to compromise his movements. I don't think the output from Choi was enough to cancel out the early exchanges that rocked him, so I actually had it 19-19. So even though that Choi was up here 24-16 as far as significant strikes go, I felt that Kyle Nelson did enough damage with those first couple shots in this round that rocked Choi that clearly put him out in front, and Choi was, he had an uphill battle to regain the damage lead in this round. So I had it for Nelson. So I had it 19-19 going into this last round. And then in this last round, Nelson in on a takedown, controlling the action and the pace. Choi against the fence, and then he finally worked his way out of it, got into top position, landed some really good elbows in the guard, and in the process, he ends up headbutting Nelson, which caused Chris Tognoni to separate them and immediately took a point from Choi. I don't know if I want to get into that one too much. Anyway, we'll talk about what happened. So Dooho Choi clearly wins this last round. The significant strikes 23-3, way out in front. Nelson was in on a takedown attempt. He ended up landing some shots, but he didn't put that much offense out there, to be honest with you. And this was a 9-9 round because of that point deduction, which leads to the draw. And it was a majority draw with Chris Lee and Eric Colon both going that way. Adelaide Bird is the one who gave that second round to Choi as well, giving him that win. Actually, she gave him all 3 rounds, which gave him the 29-27 win on her card. I don't agree with that. I think that second round, Nelson did enough damage early on. Maybe if I went back, but there's no real argument to be had. So because it was a majority draw, so there's really no win, no loss here. But okay. So Chris Tognoni taking a point. How do I feel? For those of you guys who watch my other videos, especially in the past, I'm sorry if I repeat myself. I'll try to keep it really short because I don't want to go too in depth on this. I'm in favor of, after a foul, a point being taken. Right? Bisping alluded to it in the broadcast, and I'm in favor of it if it's consistently applied across all fouls and all referees. The problem with punishing a fighter for a headbutt by immediately deducting a point is that the very next fight, the exact same thing can happen and a point will not be deducted because it'll be a different referee. Or maybe that same referee decides, oh, hey, this time it wasn't as bad. You got to just start taking points if you're going to do that, which I'm actually in favor of. I know there's probably some unintended consequences. So here's the thing. If you just got rid of these things that were illegal, we wouldn't have this discussion. Okay, if we just kept it real simple, like low blows, eye pokes, and hits to the back of the head, like targeted hits to the back of the head. Targeted hits to the back of the head is the biggest load of horse shit I have ever seen. The way that they apply that rule is, if you were to do an allegory with eye pokes, it would be eye poke, eye poke, eye poke. Hey, would you stop poking the eyes? Watch the eyes. Eye poke. Oh, sorry. And then poke them in the forehead. Because that exact sequence, but replace eye pokes with hits to the back of the head, can be allowed to continue, and they will not take the position away from you. They will not give the guy a 5-minute break. Why not? He was hit in the back of the head. That's illegal. End of story. So either get rid of these fouls or start punishing for them. So seeing Chris Tognoni immediately take a point from Dooho Choi, it's unfortunate and it's a little shocking when you see it because it's not normal. But really, just take a second, take a step back, just think about it. What does it mean going forward in MMA if this is generally what we see? I think people will be more diligent about the strikes they are throwing. I think initially we're going to get real pissed off because some of the fights are going to be, we're going to see like a 7-5 round. But it's all relative, right? Each round it's all relative. So a 7-5, that still means you won by 2, like you won that round by 2 points. right? That's fine then. But if you see like a 10-4 round or something like that, we'd be like, ugh, what the hell happened here? Oh, it turns out that guy kicked that guy in the nuts, poked him in the eyes, and grabbed the fence all in the same round. Okay, and it was a 10-8 round for the other guy. Or it started out as would have been a 10-8 round for the other guy. Okay, well then that makes sense then, doesn't it? Yeah. So we're going to see that initially, and then I think the fence grabs have got to go. I think fence grabs and hits to the back of the head are the biggest load of bullshit. I think fence grabs are almost worse. Nut shots are unfortunate. They are a part of the game. It's going to happen, but the points deduction, I'm still in favor of that. Eye pokes, again, it's unfortunate. It's a part of the game. I am in favor of taking a point for that. Headbutts, again, unfortunate. Here's the thing. If they both clash heads when they're standing, you can say, hey, you both did the action, don't take a point. Or take points from both of them. Either's fine. It doesn't matter. It has the same effect. Okay? So the fouls cancel each other out, right? That they do that in basketball. They do it in football. If the fouls cancel out, you don't need to take a point. Cool. So in this position, when he was in dominant position on the ground and he puts his head down, like he moves down for a strike and he slips and his head hits the other guy's head, I'm okay with taking a point. It's just, it was shocking. And my initial reaction was probably like your gut reaction, which is like, what the fuck? Come on, don't take a point. But if I settle with it, sit with it for a minute and think about it, I'm okay with it. If it's applied evenly across the board for all fouls, because a headbutt, a groin strike, eye poke, fence grab, all the same to me. They're all the same to me. They're all fouls. They're all illegal. Okay, let's go to the very first fight to open up the main card here. Yusaku Kinoshita versus Adam Fugitt. So this fight starts with trading low kicks. I told you, everybody does this stuff, man. It's the same thing now. So they start trading low kicks. Both guys were slinging leather, landing really hard early. Kinoshita was landing Yusaku. Yeah, you'll call. So Yusaku was landing. He landed a head kick, but Fugitt just walked through it. He's just like, it's fine. I'm just going to go take you down now. And then Yusaku was pressing forward. It looked like he was breaking Adam, but then when Adam landed this huge straight right, Yusaku goes down, and Adam got back on top. Adam gets the back control, starts landing elbows, and gets the TKO finish. It was insane. Like it was fun. It was fun to watch. There was a good sequence of events there. Fugitt, didn't get rocked necessarily, but he worked through a heavy shot, which should rock most people. It was a good fight. If you didn't watch this one, if you didn't catch this one, I do recommend it. So from the main card, real quick, we'll just go through the fights I would watch. I would watch the main event. It's not very long. It's worth watching just to see Serghei Spivac basically for future reference, so you know what he can do to a guy like Derrick Lewis. Devin Clark, Dooho, Jung, you could probably skip it. Marcin, Tybura, Blagoy, Ivanov. If you're really into it, for future implications, maybe watch it, but I would skip that one. Both ranked individuals, by the way. Dooho, Choi, Kyle Nelson, that's worth watching. That's a fun watch. And then Adam Fugitt versus Yusaku Kinoshita. I would watch that one too. It's not very long. So you could actually probably watch this whole main card pretty quick, straight through, and not miss too much. So that's all. I appreciate y'all for stopping by. If you like this stuff, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys thought about the fights. Did you guys actually stay up and watch this live? I tried. I actually fell asleep with the computer in my lap taking notes. So I did not make it. I actually had to come back and watch it. But I did take notes. I did everything I normally do. And I was diligent. And then if you're looking for the prelims, it'll be in the next video. All right. If this is the only video you watch this weekend, I appreciate you for stopping by. I love you guys. Have an amazing week.